Most brutal deaths ever preserved in fossils. I'm expecting some insane, disgusting shit.
Accomplishing certain things in life requires a boatload of luck. And a good example of this is winning the lottery. It is so unlikely that you've got a better chance of dying while buying a ticket.
My conspiracy theory is that most of the lottery winners are actually chosen in a lot of countries and are, probably selected between a lot of already close people to politicians.
Than actually winning the lottery itself, with your odds of glory being about 1 in 300 million. And yet, these odds are fantastic compared to the chances of a bone of yours becoming fossilized, as recent research estimates that only one bone in a billion turn to fossils. To put this into perspective, this process is so rare.
Yeah, we've probably missed so many millions and billions of types of animals throughout history that
less than
we haven't
1/10
found
of
out.
1% of all species that have ever existed
discovered.
gets fossilized. And that's not even taking into account the odds of being found after fossilization. So, it's no surprise
also
that
digging
fossils
that
in
shit
general
is
are far and few in
painfully
between,
bad.
making it hard to fully understand what life was like for prehistoric animals.
Yeah.
But once in a while, we get really lucky. We find a specimen that not only helps us understand extinct animals better, but also plainly shows us how brutal the ancient world could be. As over the years, a few exceptional fossils have been found, which literally contain animals locked in death or depict a
Fun fact, those fossils in museums are actually fake. They're not real. And there's a lot of people that think dinosaurs were actually fake. Listen, man. Because those fossils and bones are fake, yeah, they are. The real ones are actually, stored somewhere safely and they're used for scientific research. Yeah, no shit. Of course you're not gonna get the real bones.
horrifically violent demise, and bringing us the closest thing to real-life prehistoric battle royales. And one of the craziest examples that we know of comes from an animal that was walking around
mammoths?
not so long ago, the Colombian mammoth. These guys, thanks to their size and giant tusks, were one of the icons of the Ice Age, and some of the most metal mammals to live, period, having had to deal with an array of legendary predators that ranged both in size and killing methods. And yet ironically, it wasn't an ambitious carnivore that it was discovered locked in battle with, but rather with another fully grown mammoth.
Oof.
This fight took place in Nebraska, and is believed to have played out around 12,000 years ago, which also means that it's possible that a person actually witnessed this battle.
I was about to say that, bro. Imagine being a human back then and just seeing two woolly mammoths, just two fucking giants. How many feet were they? Probably I don't know how much they were, but god damn it, it would cause earthquakes in a mile radius. Not to that extent, I'm just,
sight, as it was a particularly
imagining
gruesome struggle, even by prehistoric standards. And interestingly enough, paleontologists think it was such a bloody and lethal battle solely because of something that would seemingly make a fight more harmless: broken tusks. Both mammoths involved were already each missing one tusk, which unfortunately for them meant that they were able to get closer than they normally would be able to. And as they ran into each other, something rather gruesome happened.
Are you telling me the tusks were on opposite sides? Well, both of them had the tusks on the left or the right side, and they just stabbed each other?
That being that one of the combatants ended up taking a tusk straight through its eye socket.
Oh!
For any normal person, a gouged eye would be the definitive end of a fight.
Yeah.
And for a mammoth, it probably was too. And yet, there was a big problem preventing peace, and that again had to do with the missing tusks. Normally after a fight would end, the two mammoths would be able to unlock from one another with relative ease, and then carry on their day, minus, a missing eye in this case. But due to the odd shapes of the broken tusks, the fighters this time became intermingled and firmly stuck together, resulting in a massive dilemma that forced both to keep thugging it out, using their bodies to push and
So you're telling me they were actually tugging it out and forcing themselves while one of them fucking had their eye already stabbed inches deep?
pull against the other. Eventually,
Didn't want to
one
make
of the
that
mammoths,
sexual.
absolutely exhausted from all the effort, lost its balance and fell to the floor, dragging the other one down with it. In this fall, things went from awkward and dicey to doomed, as their bodies landed in an awkward position and made standing back up an impossibility, especially since both are estimated to have weighed over 10 tons. And as they lay on the floor, worn out by their epic battle, they slowly withered and died to either
Bro, I imagine these kinds of animals falling on the side and just permanently being just on the floor, not being able to get up.
or
That would
dehydration
like break
before
bones.
being buried and subsequently fossilized. Yet, there is a secret to all this that was only revealed when the fighters were uncovered, which was
Yeah.
that there had been a third hidden victim all along, a coyote of all things.
Oof.
Specifically, beneath the leg of one of the mammoths, researchers discovered
Oh, he probably like. Hopefully, he was like. Hopefully, he died fast.
a coyote with a
Maybe
pulverized
his head was like smashed.
indicating that at some point it got accidentally squashed.
Yeah.
Now, why this coyote thought it was a good idea to get close to the mammoths is a mystery. But some
Idiot.
speculate that it got caught in the crossfire while
Oh.
trying to scavenge upon whichever one died
But
first.
in all of North America, in all of the places you could choose to be, you'll be right under two mammoths fighting.
And thus leading to it becoming one of the unluckiest coyotes of all time. However,
Yeah.
thanks to another, much older fossil, we know that this coyote is still not anywhere near being the top contender for the unluckiest death of all time, as that accomplishment goes to a rather surprising candidate, the Allosaurus, or rather, an Allosaurus. Opposed to finding two animals locked in duel, researchers in 1999 found a 147 million-year-old Allosaurus who had a very peculiar and nasty injury. That being that his pelvis looked like something had drilled a large hole straight through it. Which is bad enough, but what really sucked for this guy was that the location on the pelvis matched where you'd expect to find the crotch on an Allosaurus. And things did not get better for this unfortunate predator, because even though it survived the initial wound, a giant fist-sized abscess soon developed, and over the following weeks, it developed a raging infection that ultimately killed it.
Bro was just
Not to-
living for days and weeks with an infection with a huge hole in his pelvis. Yo. We take a lot of stuff in our modern life for granted, okay?
Mentioned that during this time, it had to walk around still, living in the pain of a
Oh yeah,
penetrating festering
it also had to like drink water, be protected from like other dangerous animals, and also hunt for animals for food. Oh fuck, oh man.
So now the question is, what exactly caused this catastrophic wound?
Probably
Well, it turns
another
out there's only
dinosaur.
one dinosaur from the time with a weapon which perfectly fits the fatal wound.
Again, how do you know that? We don't know that. There's like millions of different animals. We don't know that existed before us, right? None of them have ever fossilized, or we haven't found their fossils, so on. Like, how do you know?
And that is the Stegosaurus.
He should have mentioned the only animal that we know of so far.
As you know, each one of these came with a built-in thagomizer. In other words, the spiky thing at the end of their tail, which was composed of bone and had wickedly sharp points. And when you
Wasn't there another dinosaur that also had like a ball with like these kinds of sharp
combine
thingies?
sharp points with speed and power, let's just say you
Or
could
maybe they didn't live at the same age.
a lot of pain.
At the
With the
same
current
time.
idea being that the unfortunate Allosaurus tried its luck at taking down a Stegosaurus, which clearly ended horribly. It
Oof.
represents perhaps the first documented case of call an ambulance, but not for me. And this wasn't the only Mesozoic fossil we know of that captures the essence of this meme. As a few million years later, during the early Cretaceous, it happened again, this time in prehistoric China, and it involved a dinosaur and a mammal. A matchup
Yo, I love that most of these are just huge prehistoric animals, and it makes sense. But just one of them were just mammoths. So far, only
you wouldn't expect
dinosaurs.
to see often. and
Dinosaur
not one
versus
to match a
mammal.
winning. The underdog in question was the repetitive.
Yeah, mammals these days were actually, well, actually no, that was way. I was gonna say mammals these years were actually much smaller. They weren't. That was way before this. Weren't elephants are mammals and mammoths are huge
Mammoths.
mammals.
A kind of goby
But way before,
that superficially looked like a mix between an
most
opossum
mammals were
and a
actually
badger,
very
and was
tiny.
similar in size too, making them
Yeah.
actually one of the larger mammals you could find during the Mesozoic.
Okay,
They were also one of the
there
more
we go.
feisty ones, as if you open
So
up
the
their
Mesozoic is when most of the mammals were actually tiny.
mouths, you'd be met with some pretty sharp and long teeth that were designed to pierce and shear flesh, indicating
That looks like my teeth.
a healthy diet
Average Balkan teeth.
of meat. And apparently,
I'm joking.
meat can mean dinosaurs too, as paleontologists think it was the attacker in this scenario, not the defender, with that title going to Psittacosaurus, a kind of small bipedal ceratops with a fairly
Never
sturdy
seen
and
this.
bony head. Researchers reckon
Looks like what do you call him? That like little green guy from Star Wars.
the
Yoda.
Repenomamus had been in the midst of
Can't
trying to
believe I
dispatch
forgot
this
his name.
dinosaur, given that its claws were tightly gripping both the head and lower body of the Psittacosaurus, while its
Oh.
teeth were firmly sunk into the dinosaur's ribs.
God
and done
damn.
so with enough power that 2 of the ribs had broken loose from the rest,
God damn.
suggesting that this dinosaur wasn't too far from becoming dinner. However, this predation attempt turned out to be a major failure, a poorly
Okay.
timed one at that, as during this whole thing, a large volcanic eruption was ongoing
Oh.
around them, evidenced by the fact that they were buried in volcanic debris, killing
Oh.
them instantly, and also explaining how they were fossilized in a
So
flat position.
they were basically fighting while a whole volcano was like erupting next to them. Come on, man. I was about to say rare mammal dub. Never mind.
The craziest part of all of this is that the attacking mammal was 3 times smaller than the dinosaur, leading some to
Damn.
wonder why it went after such a large animal. And the answer is potentially given by other Repenomamus specimens,
Probably the large animal attacked him and he was trying to like protect
who
himself.
were found with the same kind of dinosaur inside their stomachs, suggesting that maybe they were specialized dino killers, not just occasional
Probably not.
high-risk gamblers. Now, being a dinosaur and getting bullied by mammals of all things must have been difficult, but not quite as difficult as having been a prehistoric sea cow. These guys as a group are still around, yet they used to be much more plentiful, and during the Miocene, you could find multiple genera across the entire world, with one of them having been the Culbratherium, a 4 meter or 12 foot long genus, which makes it one of the bigger known sirenians. Though, like its relatives, this creature had no clear defensive or offensive capabilities, resulting in some pretty horrific and frankly sad endings, as evidenced by a specimen that died in Venezuelan waters 20 million years ago. The individual was found with severe damage across its entire body that was so intense that it was deemed unusual even for a prehistoric animal, leading to more in-depth research which found that its wounds were composed of not 1, but 2 distinct kind of bite marks, one of which resembled having come from a crocodilian, and the other resembling a
Oh,
shark,
that ginormous crocodile from back
which is
then?
actually still swimming today, the tiger shark.
Oh,
Both predators had dealt a great deal of damage, and each seemed to have targeted different parts of the body, with the croc having focused on the head, while the shark administered sporadic bites along the postcranial portion. Originally, paleontologists reckoned that the ancient dugong had to have been dead by the time the predators made their assault, implying a scavenging event. However,
Oh.
the nature of the tooth marks revealed
Ugh.
that in reality, it was probably much more violent and lively than first thought. This revelation was made by mainly analyzing the croc's bites, which showed that it first attacked the snout of the Sirenian by latching its jaws around
bro,
its
how
head.
did they even like? Okay, guessing what kind of teeth attacked them and basing that from what we know from back then, from what kind of animals were in that environment. Sure, how can you guess by if the animal was alive or not at the second or first attack or whatever? But come on, man.
And clamping down so hard that it even penetrated bone, reflecting a clear attempt to cut off the Culbratherium's airflow, and thus drown it. And as you might know, you wouldn't bother with drowning a dead animal, meaning this croc attacked a very much alive sea cow, which given its size, was no easy task. And based
Or
on the
what if one attacked them and then the other one, and both the tiger shark and the crocodilian were trying to catch him and fight him. And not catch him and fight. They were fighting each other by trying to tear this guy apart, you know, taking him for a meal. But they both won him. Probably not.
measurements of the teeth marks,
It
paleontologists
will probably all
estimate
be
the
torn
crocodilian must have been even
apart,
bigger,
like the
possibly 6
skeleton.
meters or 20 feet in length, which is
Holy
on par
shit.
with the longest recorded crocodiles of today. But paleontologists do not think that this guy was a crocodile, rather
Oh.
a giant extinct kind of caiman or gharial, who also utilized death rolls, as other
This is what
lower
I
down
said.
bites on the skull showed dragging and tearing marks indicative of violently rolling around. At some point, perhaps after the Sirenian was weak enough, a nearby tiger shark, enticed by the commotion, approached for a quick meal, taking multiple bites out of the body, including an especially vicious chomp to the Sirenian's neck, which left teeth literally lodged in the bone, which is how the shark's identity was ultimately made.
Oh, okay.
Now, finding evidence of a prehistoric three-way is obviously quite rare, but it seems to have been a weirdly common occurrence in ancient waters, as we know of another example that actually included all 3 combatants, and started with something rather unassuming, a small Mesozoic fish, known as Leptolapetes. This ray-finned sushi was presumably just living out its normal day in the late Jurassic, swimming around the warm shallow waters off of what would one day become Germany, when at some point it attracted the unwanted attention of a pterosaur, the Rhamphorhynchus to be specific, which had a wingspan of about 2 meters or 6.5 feet, and had dozens of needle-like teeth perfect for gripping slippery fish. And this time they were quite effective, as the fossil showed the fish snugly trapped within the throat of the pterosaur, who would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been rudely interrupted by another fish, who was of course bigger, because as we know, the rule of the ocean is that there's always a bigger one out there. This new contender was an Aspitorhynchus, a small to medium-sized ray-finned fish that measured about 2.7 feet or 85 centimeters. So not huge, though it did seem to have one very large appetite, because it seemed to be trying to hunt the pterosaur itself, because as the pterosaur dipped down to snatch up the Leptolopetes, the larger fish...
I've never thought of a fish actually hunting a dinosaur. Or a dinosaur bird.
But instead of
thingy.
successfully pulling it off, the fish misjudged its timing and speed, resulting in its large beak-like face ramming into the pterosaur's wing as it swam up to strike, resulting in it puncturing straight through the wing's membrane. This collision occurred so fast and forcefully that the teeth of the Aspitorhynchus actually became fused and entangled with the fibrous tissue found in the pterosaur's wing, creating an inescapable sticky and bloody biological mess.
Wait, how did I see the tissue? The tissue, like, the bones are preserved, not the tissue, right? Like, most of the wing is not bone, the top of the wing is bone, and then everything else is just flesh, right? Or what he said, some type of membrane, right? I'm not a fucking biologist or ancient fossilologist, but how do they actually, like, what, the teeth, what? How?
Locked in this helpless situation, and with a fish still down the pterosaur's throat, the two started to fight and thrash around, hoping to break free. And in the process, they managed to cause further carnage, as the pterosaur's already messed up wing became nauseatingly dislocated. And then, the two presumably began to sink under the surface. We can only assume that the pterosaur died first, drowning within minutes, but eventually so did the fish, trapped within the body of its own victim, where it remains stuck to this day. Such a vivid and gruesome fossil makes me quite happy to live in the present and not be a Jurassic pterosaur.
Yeah, I just said that a few minutes ago, man.
But somehow, this is not even the most bloody prehistoric fight we know of, as that award would likely go to one of the most famous fossil specimens of all time, the fighting dinosaurs. Over half a century
Are you telling me that's how they actually found them?
old, this amazing fossil came out of the Jadokta Formation in Mongolia and depicts a Protoceratops and Velociraptor trapped in a bitter brawl, likely started by the Velociraptor's stomach. In the fossil, the Velociraptor has its left hand scratching the Ceratopsid's skull, while its feet and sickle claws were positioned by the neck and abdomen of the Protoceratops. Not a great look for the Ceratopsid.
Yeah.
However, the Velociraptor wasn't doing a whole lot better, as its right arm was in the clutches of the Protoceratops' beak, and its body aligned underneath, indicating that it might have been power slammed onto the ground. As the two were thrashing upon the floor, researchers believe that with its one arm pinned, the raptor decided to utilize its legs and sickle claws to rip and destroy the Protoceratops' vital neck and abdominal region, causing...
Why is it called Protoceratops? Is this a ceratops? Is this like some ancestor of the ceratops?
all sorts of problems to say the least. But what happened after this is a bit blurry.
Like the Triceratops?
The common theory is that this fight took place after a storm, and a nearby dune, destabilized by rain, ended up collapsing upon them mid-fight, thus killing the two and preserving them for millions of years. However, things got a bit interesting when researchers noticed that the Protoceratops had some other wounds that could not be explained by the Velociraptor and seemed lethal in their own right, including a broken pectoral girdle and a forelimb that had been torn off to the left, suggesting that maybe a dune had not been their downfall, and that instead, the two had managed to kill each other, leaving no victor.
Oh, maybe that was something from before a fight. Again,
with the
people are way
Protoceratops
too
having
sure.
bled out thanks to the kick strikes, while the Velociraptor was left trapped underneath the heavier Protoceratops. Then, at some point, the two were partially scavenged, explaining the extra damage, before they were then entombed in some later burial event. Regardless, it most likely is impossible for us to ever tell exactly how this fight ended, but the importance of it remains, as it was some of the first direct evidence we got which proved that dinosaurs could be predatorial and were not strict scavengers. And one, much more recent fossil that possibly further proves this, also does so with a dinosaur who used to be the face of the scavenging debate. the king himself, the Tyrannosaurus rex.
Okay.
Specifically, a specimen located in the Hell Creek Formation.
Yo, that dancing T-Rex is gonna be in my head now for a whole fucking night. This guy ruined my night.
2006
Great video.
showed us one of the most iconic matchups of all time in real life. A T-Rex
Triceratops and T-Rex?
Triceratops horridus.
Hell
who were
yeah.
found entangled
I
in a
want
tree.
a time machine to go back, not to just explore the whole world, the continents being rearranged, the weather and all of this. Probably in certain times of the planet, I'd probably like die from the weather and shit. Probably being so toxic for me or something as a human. But I would love to see such a fight in front of me.
Sandstone dated to
Unfold.
67 million years ago.
Unfold.
And what's so amazing about this particular find was not only that they seem to be fighting, but that both combatants are among the best preserved fossils for their respective species. With the
Nice.
T-Rex actually being the only known fully complete Tyrannosaurus, and even containing outlines of internal organs, its stomach content, and proteins.
Oh.
Meanwhile, the Triceratops, despite not being perfect, was still largely preserved, and so were its and the Tyrannosaurus's wounds. It's fair to say that both are pretty banged up, but surprisingly, it was the tyrant lizard king who took most of the damage, having had a cracked skull, broken fingers, and a mouth full of mostly broken teeth. The Triceratops, on the other hand, seemed to be suffering from some pretty ferocious bite marks, as the teeth from the Tyrannosaurus were found lodged in its spine. Having a couple of animals buried next to each other, one herbivore, one predator, and each bearing wounds, is a pretty clear indication of a battle. But there is one thing that perplexes researchers, and makes them wonder if this fossil was just a pure coincidence, and that's their sizes. You see, the Triceratops involved was a fully grown adult.
Wait. Triceratops get this big? Yo, I am an idiot. I thought, like, I'm 1.2 meters. That's like, well, I'm 182 centimeters. That's like 6 feet, right? I didn't know Triceratops got this large.
That would have weighed multiple
4
tons.
feet?
Yet the T-Rex wasn't even mature, and is thought to have been in its adolescence, being many times smaller than the Triceratops. Therefore, it deciding to attack the Triceratops is rather dubious at best.
Yeah,
This
I
lets
don't know
the
about
notion
that one.
That the two possibly just happen to be fossilized next to each other,
They look like fucking sheep here.
dying in their own separate way. But the nature of their wounds are just too coincidental to gloss over, and has led to some new hypotheses which still involve fighting. The first is that the Tyrannosaurus wasn't alone, and the attack on the Triceratops was an effort by multiple T-Rexes, as there is some partial evidence for cooperation in small groups among Tyrannosauruses. The second, and more receptive of the ideas, is that it wasn't...
I've actually never heard of like dinosaurs hunting together. Probably some of them did, but I've read a lot, not read, but I've watched a lot of videos about a lot of the dinosaurs. I've never heard once of dinosaurs in a group hunting. I've always seen them as loners,
T-Rex that attacked,
like tigers.
but rather the grumpy Triceratops who might have felt disturbed by its presence. Or maybe the T-Rex got a bit too close. Not to mention that there could have been young around as well. We
Oof.
see similar behavior in elephants and rhinos today, and this would explain why a small T-Rex was found entangled in battle with a much larger herbivore. Now, what neither theory explains is how they both managed to die at the same time, with the only real guess being that some sort of landslide got them. Or,
Of course, a landslide or volcano. That's
or
how
that
they
were
preserve
suddenly
them.
immersed in water and drowned.
Now I know what
Which
is the
could explain
patterns.
Why the T-Rex seems to be doing the classic death throw pose seen in certain dinosaurs. Seeing two of the most famous dinosaurs in action is pretty awesome, and quite unfair for other specimens to compete with. But we do know
Yeah.
of one that still takes the cake when it comes to preservation, as it involves amber, more precisely, 100-million-year-old amber. Inside this golden ball, two worker ants remain frozen in a brawl.
No freaking way. They found ants battling it out in a cool way. No way. This
One
was not
is
what I was.
thinking
I was
Spencer.
expecting large dinosaurs all the
Whereas
time.
on
I
the
was
other
loving
side,
this.
Not very nice.
I'm not very
But
amused
because
by
they are
ants.
It's not the most exciting find. But what
By ants fighting, I mean.
is fascinating
Ants building shit? That's fucking interesting.
is that it's the oldest evidence we have for warring ants, as the two belligerents are actually different species, suggesting that for at least the last 100 million years, ants have been duking it out. And another Cretaceous dated amber piece, this time showing a termite and an ant worker with an arm.
But what percentage of the world is actually from insects? I think most of the living species, like animals, right, and humans, I'm not counting plants, right, but I think there's like for example, there's millions of different types of beetles, right? How many types of insects are there in the world? Bro, most of the living species in the world are ants. Well, insects.
Reach of one another has also led to the assumption that termites and ants might still be resolving a war older than the Cenozoic itself.
Bro, they've termites and ants and all these fucking other insects that are like, you know, a little bit more intelligent and live in groups and form societies, their own societies. They've had like hundreds of millions of world wars.
Also,
well, not world wars, you know what I mean.
Indirectly making ants the original harbingers of death. And for some reason, it seems that during the late Cretaceous, amber seemed to be at war with life as well, as there is yet another third Cretaceous amber fossil from a Burmese mine that contains a juvenile spider attempting to make a meal out of a tiny parasitic wasp. Though, obviously, and sadly, it never quite got to it. Again, not the most crazy find, but it does have its own unique achievement, being the only fossil ever discovered which shows a spider attacking prey in its own web.
That's
Pretty nifty.
cool.
And don't stress.
I mean,
if
it's
you want to
disgusting,
battle
but it's
combatants
cool.
Much more terrifying. You don't even have to leave the Mesozoic, as the discovered Triassic specimen, dated to 210 million years ago, represents one of the oldest signs of predation, and it involves two crazy fighters, a Rawisuchian and a Phytosaur. Both animals were very croc-like, and the Rawisuchian are actually ancestral to them, while the Phytosaur's uncanny similarities is actually a result of convergent evolution. Each one of them were usually the apex predators in their environment, with the Rawisuchians being adapted for terrestrial life, and the Phytosaurs adapted for a semi-aquatic one. Typically, paleontologists thought that each stuck to their own respective kingdoms, but a located Rawisuchian femur showed that hostilities could and did arise. Based on the size of the bone, paleontologists think that it came from 8-meter or 26-foot long Rawisuchian. Pretty big. And yet the femur was riddled with bite marks, and even had some teeth lodged into it. These teeth and the marks both matched those found in a Phytosaur. Not exactly who you'd expect to be attacking a Rawisuchian, especially since the marks indicate a 6-meter or 19.6 foot long Phytosaur, quite a bit smaller than the victim. And it gets even weirder, as some of the bite marks in the femur had fully healed, while others weren't healed at all, indicating that this Rawisuchian had survived an initial attack, and then succumbed to a later fatal one, with both attackers having been
This doesn't really sound that cool. So what, the guy was like this Rawisuchian or whatever its name is? So it was probably in the water hunting for fish, probably not, maybe drinking water if it was fresh water, maybe. If it's not seawater, then yeah, sure, fine. But something to do with him being in water and randomly being attacked by this croc-like huge creature. That's it? Nah, this is the lamest one, man. This is
leading
not.
to the idea that this Rawisuchian may have been a victim of predation. Now, during the Triassic, because there were so many predators, it has been long thought that in some environments, predators would actually start to hunt other predators. But you wouldn't just expect a
I think predators, I think that's somehow a good thing because listen, man, if there's only one predator and nobody can rival it, as years pass, it is gonna just make more babies of itself. There's gonna expand. They're gonna ruin the ecosystem. We need rival predators. We always need rival predators in nature so they can keep each other in balance. So they would have their own different separate parts of nature, the environment, the continent, the whatever you want to call it, right? The region they are in. If not, imagine just one predator being they beat the apex. Nobody's even close, and it's just spreading out. It's just making more of itself. It's just gonna destroy everything. It's like it's gonna ruin so many different species. So evolutionary, it makes sense so that there will always have to be multiple predators that are at least close or stronger than another predator, right? That makes sense, right?
large Rawisuchian to be caught up in this.
Plus, that actually makes sure that there doesn't, one day just one way larger predator just show up all out of nowhere.
And one explanation is that like animals crossing rivers today in certain parts of the world, waters back then were filled with giant hungry phytosaurs, who had the home advantage of being in water, allowing them to then tackle prey much larger than normal. This could also be why the bites were found in the back area, opposed to the front.
This
Demonstrating an
last
ambush
one was
attack
actually
the
pretty
Rawisuchian was not
meh,
expecting.
in my opinion. But yeah, tell me what you guys think in the comments. Extinct Zoo, I've watched tons of videos from this guy, but I haven't watched this video, so I'm like, I'm gonna react to it. Like and subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments. Personally, the Triceratops and T-Rex one was the best for me. Sorry, it is what it is. I'm lame, I'm basic, it is what it is. Have a nice day.